Yeah, let's go ahead and we'll start with Rosa Zamudio.
Hello, everyone. So, in regards to our business department, we are in the process of closing the books for 1920, and we've been working and being really busy with that. At the same time, we're also working with our auditors. They were here at the district last week, and they were reviewing all of our paperwork and documentation. And they're scheduled to come back in September after we close the books so they can do the final review and get our audit report ready for the district. I know during the last meeting we talked about the 45 budget revision that was approved actually by the board, and I included some of the COVID-19 funds that I mentioned that they were coming from federal funding. This last week, I actually have really, really good news for all of you guys. Last week, we received the information about new federal funding through the CARES Act. And this is a big, larger amount of federal funding, and is divided into 3 different sub-grants that are gonna be dedicated to be spent on supplemental and concentrational population for those students and special ed. And then the other side is gonna be for regular students. So I'm still working with the County Office of Education to create some of the optional accounting codes for us to keep track. As I mentioned, these are federal funds, so we want to make sure that we have everything in place before we put it in the budget. I reached out to the county to see if we needed to do another budget revision, just like the 45 budget revision that I presented to you during the last meeting. And because this was after the adoption of the budget and the information is so new and we're still trying to work it out, you're gonna see this on the first entry report, and that's where it's gonna be allocated. That's gonna be the next budget revision. And the total for this grant, I actually provided the information for all of the directors during last week, but the total for all the sub-grants and the overall federal funding that we're getting is $3.4 million for our district. So I'm very excited and looking forward for this. We do have to implement a plan for each of the sub-grants. So I'm gonna be working very closely with all of the directors to plan something. We have few challenges for this grant. The first challenge is that a big portion of the grants need to be spent out before December of 2020 of this year. And the second challenge is that we're not going to get the actual cash of the grant until 2021. So it's kind of like they want us to spend the money as soon as possible. However, we're not getting the cash until next calendar year. So these are some of the challenges that not only our district is facing, but all of the districts in California. And we are asking to give us more time to spend the funds. It's just putting a plan together for that amount, in such a short amount of time. We just want more time for it. So I know that there's some letters that were sent out to the state to ask for an extension to be able to have a better plan and have more time to spend this $3.4 million. And it's the same for all the districts. That's pretty much what I have as of today. Thank you. Let me know if you have any questions.
Thanks, Rosa. Nadine, why don't you go next?
Good evening, everybody. Just real quick, we've kicked off the department meetings. I'm going to not be doing those weekly this year because we're no longer in emergency status. We are now in reality. So they will be monthly, and I will continue to meet once a month with each section of our department. So I finished the last of them today, so things are going well, and there's a lot of concern with uncertainty, but I'm quite sure that we can tackle it all with full force. I really believe, the message I'm sending my department, we've done the hardest work. We had to with special education and compliance and legalities, so we didn't really have time to stumble around in April. So a lot of the challenging pieces for our department we've already faced in April and May, and I'm really proud of the membership in our department, how they took that on. So we're going to begin to restart assessments. We suspended assessments for students during April and May, being fooled by the possibility of coming back in August and we could do those assessments in person with our students, and that's not going to happen. So we're going to jump in with assessments. A lot of companies have developed some virtual protocols that we can start using. I've got some members of our department who have stepped up and done some research for us, for all of us, that they're sharing out. So we're going to work together with our families to create the best assessment process that we can for our students. Some of them may be in person, depending on how the employee base feels or that SPED team feels, and depending on the age of the child. You can imagine assessing a 2-year-old turning 3 in a virtual model can be a little bit challenging. So the early childhood team is having lots of very healthy discussions about how they can set up the process for our younger students, and also do it in a safe environment for not just for the students, but for our employee base as well and their parents. I'm conferring with legal as needed. There will be some new mandated changes to IEPs because of these emergency circumstances. They don't necessarily have to happen, the changes into the IEP immediately. For once, we're finally get a little bit of forgiveness in making those changes. And for some pieces, we can, when a student's annual comes due, we can put the emergency circumstance plan in the IEP when a student's annual or a tri appears. But we'll be doing some amendments right away in August and September to work on the minute adjustments for students in the proper percentages, and to also look at their services as well and make sure that they're adequate. And then finally, I was able to sort out, and I'm finally getting the notices from the CSBA for the policy updates. It's taken a couple tries to make sure that I'm the person that receives them. So I finally got the email, I think it was yesterday, for the July updates. So just looking at my organizer on the wall there, July updates come through at the end. What they do is they notify at the end of the month. Most likely I will be able to bring those to the board in a September meeting. It's going to be almost impossible for me to do those updates in August. But that's, unless you're really uncomfortable with that. None of our policies are more than a year old, and it's not uncommon for July updates to be a little bit delayed because we're starting school. We're trying to reopen right now. So printing out board policy updates is a little bit down on the list of priorities, but I promise you that I will get to them, and most likely it'll be September. If I can do it sooner, certainly I will. Thank you.
Okay, HR, Becky.
Thank you. Well, we had our new teacher orientation this last Friday, and welcomed 21 teachers to the district. Excited to be joining us. Some of them experienced, some of them new to the teaching profession. So that was really neat to get to interface with them virtually, and welcome them to the district. We have had our classified 11-month employees returned last week, and our 10-month employees all return tomorrow. So it'll be exciting to have a full staff working again. And as you'll see in the teachers' MOU, some of them are working from home. The majority are preferring to come and work on campus. Our classified employees, for the most part, are working on campus. We do have a tentative agreement with CSEA for their reopening MOU. So that's pending ratification of the chapter, which takes a little bit longer right now with trying to get our classified staff in together to be able to vote through their processes. But that, once it's ratified with the chapter, will be coming to you for approval. And then finally, I've been working really closely with our district nurse, Nurse Semmelman, on all things related to COVID-19, particularly health and safety topics. She put together a training, a video training that has been sent out to all staff on health and safety protocols on campuses. So all of our employees are being trained. The principals have put together health and safety protocols for their school sites for all employees, visitors interfacing on site, of course, with visitors being very limited. And then Nurse Semmelman and I have been monitoring any cases of possible exposure to make sure that we're following CDC and local health guidelines on those cases to protect all of our employees. Thank you.
Thank you, Becky. And Melissa?
I've hardly been busy at all. So my office usually looks like a book depot this time of year, and this time it's full of masks and all kinds of other things that I'm delivering. Board members are also getting 3 of our washable face masks, so if you're here, you picked yours up. Those came in for our staff, and so our student ones will be in just a little bit later. They'll kind of be reversed. They'll be white with the black logo on it. Black and white was the fastest we could get, and I said, then black and white it is. And so actually they're pretty good quality. They come with a filter that you slide in, a little adjustable ear holders with them. So it's a great company out of Santa Rita, and North County School District put us onto that vendor. So we're ever grateful for our partners who are also in all of this. We've been working so much just internally, and then reaching out to people that we know in other districts. I think every single one of the directors have just called on different resources that we know, and to keep solving problems on the daily. I did go ahead and remind the academic coaches this morning. I said, so tomorrow school starts. Let's just assume that things will go awry, and let's just own that and know that will happen, and then we'll just fix them as it goes. So, I just kept reiterating to our teachers that we will fail at some things, and that's inevitable. It's a definite. It's going to happen. But because we're Santa Rita, we'll just pick each other up and continue on and do it better. So, because that's what we do here, and that's the only way we're going to get through this. But I did tell them, I said, we'll do it. We can do this, and we can do it well. Of course, we still have parents who are picking up Chromebooks. We have some parents who are surprised that school didn't start today when they tried dropping off a couple little ones. And people ran outside and did that. So things will happen, and we'll get through it. Our families are getting individual calls. A lot of our teachers have already started those calls with people, or and reaching out to them saying, okay, so this is what's going to happen on Wednesday. Here's where you can find it. Here's how I get a hold of you. And then for others, they'll make their first contact tomorrow. Our TK team, kinder teams, they're putting together canvas tote bags with school supplies that will go home to facilitate students' distance learning. So some of those funds Rosa was talking about, it'll be for that. So it's going to be for those learning tools that our students need in order to access the distance learning with their teachers. So that if a teacher says, okay, pull this out of your bag so we can do this activity together, they'll have that, and they'll be able to do that. So the fact that Rosa was able to quickly get on that is going to be amazing. So we're looking at doing things like going ahead and upping our bandwidth again, additional WAPs for teachers, because part of it is to facilitate distance learning, and with the streaming, it takes up so much more bandwidth. So we'll use a portion of the funds to go ahead and do that. But the extra devices that we need and things like that to facilitate distance learning. So it's really going to allow us to do a lot of that. But also our principals are looking at working with their teachers on how can we set up basically like after school writing centers, like tutoring centers, math centers with different teachers who say, I could do a math center at this time every evening, and anybody in 4th or 5th grade can log in with me and I can do the tutoring. That's one benefit of distance learning, is you can reach more students in that kind of method. So we have teachers really thinking outside the box right now. And so we'll still be able to do a lot of those extras, because it is about addressing the learning loss, right? So not waiting to address it a year or two later when it's even more challenging, but addressing it right in the middle of this, which is going to be a beautiful thing. And our teachers are already thinking of things that they want to implement to go ahead and address that. And it allows us to get paid versions of some really good apps that a lot of our teachers have been using the free version of, that gets a little more tracking and access, and things that will help build their digital classrooms. So that's just some of the things we've been doing.
Thank you, Melissa. That's it. And the other two directors are not going to join us tonight, so they'll be here next Wednesday.
Sarah, your mic's off.
Thank you. The bane of 2020. Is there, before we go on to the superintendent's report, were there anything that any of the board members wanted to report? We didn't have it as a specific agenda item, but I just wanted to, just in case if there was anything somebody needed to share. I'm seeing Mrs. Saldana say no, Mr. Ariano, Mr. Sandoval, anything? Okay. The only thing that I wanted to add, I did get an email today from Terry James at the Monterey County Office of Education that there's going to be an online training about implicit bias in September. I believe it's September 14th, and I'm going to forward that email to my other board members, but also to Tim. So Tim, if people that are interested, I believe it's September 14th from 5 to 7. It's an online seminar. So having dealt with that, we're going to go on to 1.8, a superintendent's report.
Well, you can hear the director's reports. The days are filled with, fun and frolic, but today I got out to to 3 sites just to connect with the 2 new principals at both New Republic and McKinnon, and then also just to welcome the teachers back, because we didn't get a chance to do our normal routine with a breakfast and a get together and stuff. And so I'll visit the other 3 sites tomorrow and make sure that they all are welcome. What I experienced on my trips around were teachers that were on the phone already, contacting families, talking to students, talking to parents. And I got to tell you, I was so impressed with just the positive attitude, and everybody was excited, and they really appreciated having these 10 days to just get that part of it. Because without having kids in your classroom for a day or two, this is really necessary for them to bond and connect with those students. And so really positive feedback on that. Both sites were very complimentary of their new principals when they didn't know they were there. Like, they would be behind me outside the door. I just poked my head in. And so just a very positive attitude that's going on. And then I stopped by Bolson Knowles and visited teachers there, and visited with Gail Spencer and John Gutierrez just to see how they were doing. And again, really exuberant, very positive, excited. And the one thing we kept talking about was how exciting it was going to be when we get out of this and we can look back on this from the outside, looking back in, and realize everything that we've done. I met 2 teachers who have spouses in other districts, and they go home and tell them everything that we're doing, and their spouses are like, "Are you kidding me?" They're really very. They just say they're really happy with being here because we really are ahead of the curve, and that has to do with the efforts of the people that you see on these screens, and Chuck and Victor, and our principals and the teachers. I mean, everybody has been working through this whole summer. The teachers have basically worked through the whole summer as well, coming to our committee meetings and our planning meetings and stuff. So it's you can all be very proud of this staff, from the teachers to the classified, to the principals, to the cabinet. It's really, really an exciting time here, even though we're in this incredible hardship. So it was a very good day, and I'm excited about what this year is going to hold, because if we get through this, there's nothing that they can throw at us that's going to keep us from being successful. So, but just so you know, very positive. If you get a chance to visit some sites, please do, because it's kind of fun. So, and that's all I had.
Thank you. So we're gonna go on to 2.1, consider approval of the MOU between Santa Rita and SRTA regarding negotiations for the 2020-2021 school year and the immediate implementation of the new preschool article and the new certificated evaluation tool.
Okay, thank you. And so this agreement comes out of our negotiations for the 2021 school year. We have been negotiating with SRTA since the beginning of March. We started right before we shut down. So we got to have 1 or 2 face-to-face meetings in person before we started negotiating virtually, and worked through almost all of the articles that we had opened up in our sunshines. With the exception of 3 articles that we deliberately agreed to hold off on until August or September because of funding questions related to those articles, and we wanted to know where our budget would stand. Because of that bit of a delay, there is an issue, particularly with the preschool, meeting the guidelines for the state grant with their hours. And we also have an issue with our current evaluation tool not meeting the STAL Act. And so implementing these 2 articles right away is going to help resolve those issues. And SRTA was on board with doing that since we had come to tentative agreements on those 2 articles. So we are asking for you to approve this MOU so that we can increase the preschool hours for our teachers. We will also be giving them a 5% increase on the preschool teacher salary schedule. And we will also begin using that new evaluation tool.
Does the board have any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, can I have a motion?
I motion to approve 2.1. This is Jacob.
I second, Amparo.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So passes 4-0, thank you. Okay, moving on to 2.2, consider approval of the MOU between SRUSD and Santa Rita Teachers Association regarding school reopening for the 2020-21 school year and the response to COVID-19.
Thank you. Again, SRTA and the district negotiating team have been very active in negotiations between the articles and this agreement for the change in working conditions for this current school year due to COVID-19. So the document outlines all of those agreements, and I think that the Teachers Association and the district are definitely satisfied that we can work together under this agreement.
Any questions or comments?
Did we receive any public comments?
Nicole, have we received anything since, I checked with you at 6, but have we received anything since 6? Okay, so Nicole just put in the chat, no comments. Okay, so yeah, as of here, 6:49, we don't have any comments, and I really do appreciate both sides for getting this done and coming to an agreement. I really appreciate it.
I motion to approve 2.2 or 2.2.
Yes, 2.2.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, passes 4-0. Thank you, everybody. Okay, 2.3, consider approval of the variable term waiver to teach special education at Bolson Knolls Middle School.
We have a teacher who we have hired for special education at Bolson Knolls Middle School who meets the requirements for the waiver for special education for that authorization. And so we are requesting approval of that waiver this year while she works to get into the special education program.
Any questions or comments? Okay, can I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve 2.3.
I second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 4-0, thank you. And then 2.4, consider approval of personnel actions.
Thank you. These are generally the consent agenda. So we have some new hires since our last meeting. 2 resignations, 1 teacher and 1 classified employee, a paraprofessional. And then also a teacher has decided to retire.
Okay, may I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passes 4-0. Okay, so we're down to 3.1. The next regular meeting of the Board of Trustees will be Wednesday, August 12th, 2020. Board members, is there anything you would like agendized for the 12th or a subsequent meeting?
I think for me, it's not so much on the agenda, but just something, I know they mentioned about the extension of the grant money that we have to spend by December. So I'm sure that'll be coming in the updates as far as whether that's granted or not.
Okay, thank you to everybody, and could I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passes 4-0. Thank you, and thank you to everybody for all your patience tonight, and anybody gonna watch this later. Thank you for your patience. Bye.
Aye. Thank you, everybody.